I really didn't want to go in there.
They'll have to be transported like that.
Otherwise, they're gonna kill you.
Yeah, they'll fight.
No matter who's in there, they're going to be in danger.
Be ready to pull me out.
Careful, careful.
If something gets wrong in this situation, we can have serious problems.
And I hear all hell break loose.
Wanted. Wildlife veterinarians to capture and move wild animals. Applicants must be willing to work long hours in severe environments and highly dangerous situations. Meet Ellen Mesner-Rogers and Jorge Paredes. Two young doctors just crazy enough to answer such an ad. Join them in South Africa as they learn firsthand from Dr. Cobus Rath and a team of other game capture specialists the challenges and triumphs of modern-day conservation.
It's going to be the experience of a lifetime.
On the Great African Wildlife Rescue. It has only been in the past few years that conservation in South Africa has involved the private sector. Before that, it was the sole responsibility of the government's Parks Board.
Conservation has become a big business in South Africa. It's not just the governments that are putting aside land to conserve animals, it's also private individuals. They can make a business out of it. They can get money from tourists to look at the animals on their property. They can also sell the animals.
By purchasing animals through these carefully regulated game auctions, reserve owners are re-establishing wildlife on land previously used for farming and other purposes. Dr. Cobus Rath is one of a handful of wildlife experts with the experience needed to safely lead capture teams into the wild South African bush. Today's mission begins here at the western tip of South Africa. Located just 120 kilometers north of Cape Town, West Coast National Park represents more than 18,000 hectares of protected area. This park is one of South Africa's largest coastal reserves and is home to a wide variety of wildlife, including the largest of the antelope, the eland.
It's a beautiful sunrise at West Coast National Park. We're just waiting for the chopper to start the capture of another group of eland.
Although a full-grown eland can weigh as much as a passenger car, it can clear a 2-meter obstacle. On this day in mid-October, a team will attempt to capture the small herd of these powerful animals for sale to a private reserve. The key step in any mass capture like this is to locate a suitable group by helicopter. While pilot Pit Otto searches for the animals, Ellen and Jorge work with the ground crew to put the final touches on the boma. For these young doctors, this process will be an entirely new experience.
Wildlife medicine is interesting because you're dealing with animals we don't usually have any interaction with at close range. Every time I get close to one of these animals, whether it's an elephant or a lion or antelope or anything, every time I just think, what a cool animal.
This is going to be exciting. Every time you bring large animals into a small space, things can go wrong.
As Pit zeroes in on a herd of eland, the ground crew begins to take their places at the capture site. This V-shaped enclosure is designed to funnel a group of animals through a series of curtains into a waiting transport truck. As the helicopter herds the animals into the boma, the pilot will signal the ground crew to close the curtains in succession. Although these curtains are only plastic, animals perceive them as solid walls. As Pitt works his way towards the boma, he radios the ground crew to be ready for the signal.
At this moment, we're hiding in the curtains, and we know that we cannot move at all. If we make a mistake, the alien will just run away, and the capture is over.
Although the eland are capable of traveling long distances, Pitt must be careful not to push them too hard. The stress of being captured, combined with physical exhaustion, can be fatal. To keep the herd moving forward, Pitt must fly dangerously low. If he were to stall at this altitude, he would certainly crash.
When we did the practice, we closed the curtains without an helicopter, and there was no wind at all. But now, the helicopter was so near that it was quite hard to close them completely.
In the chaos, the crew is not able to close the second curtain in time, and all but one animal turns back into the first compartment. For the safety of the ground crew, Pitt works quickly to push this single animal toward the truck before returning for the others.
I have never been so near from an eland, and especially in a wild situation. It's afraid as well, the same as you. But you have to be careful just not to break that distance, not to get too near, because for sure you're going to have a problem with him.
The first eland is safely loaded into the truck. The interior curtains are immediately reopened to capture the remainder of the group.
Your heart is just pumping the blood all over your body. You hear the helicopter just flying on your head, the people talking with the radio, and everybody closing the curtain at the same time. That is just a really, really exciting situation, difficult to describe.
In minutes, the capture team has turned momentary confusion into smooth coordination.
In this kind of mass capture, the quicker you put the animals into the truck and separate, especially the males, the better. Once the bigger males are together, even for a couple of minutes, they're going to start fighting, and that could be very dangerous because they can hurt each other.
When the eland are in the transport truck, the crew must work quickly to sedate the animals. The vets will use specialized syringes on the end of poles so they can keep a safe distance from these scared and extremely powerful antelope. Between their tight spiraled horns and their tremendous strength, one eland could easily kill another.
What we do is we'll cover the tips of the horns with a piece of rubber hose, and you just slip it right over the horn and bang it on so it's on nice and tight and doesn't come off.
It looks a little bit funny and strange to do it, but it doesn't disturb them at all.
With over 12 years of experience, Dr. Cubas Rath is leading the team on this capture. He will keep Ellen and Jorge focused on dangers they may not be able to anticipate.
I knew that these animals were quite strong, but I never realized how much damage they could cause to each other.
So what happened now? I saw that we got most of the animals are males. They were fighting a lot. What are we going to do now?
I'm going to split the 4 males so that they're each in their own compartment, so that they can't fight, and then keep the females together on the other side. And they will have to be transported like that.
Otherwise, they're going to kill each
Yeah,
other.
they'll fight the whole time, and they may kill one another. Yeah.
Helen!
The eland are moved from the capture site to a holding truck. It is here that the animals will be separated.
This is not going quite the way we wanted it to go. It's partly our fault in terms of planning. We have the animals on the truck as they're supposed to be, But we have several males mixed in with females, and they're starting to fight. So we've got to find a way to separate them. Otherwise, we're going to get too many animals hurt.
All captures require careful preparation, but even the best planned ones are subject to the unexpected.
As soon as they drive up, we realize that there's a huge gap between the level of the truck and the level of the holding area. This is one of those situations where you really didn't expect it at the beginning, and you have to find a way to deal with it. So ingenuity comes to play.
That's one thing that South Africans are quite good. They like to improvise, and they do it very well.
Because the truck is fully laden with animals, its enormous weight makes this approach precarious. Now the truck seems to be high enough to begin unloading.
We've got 6 bulls here and 3 cows. So that's why we brought them to this truck, so that we could split the bulls and put a bull and a cow and a bull and a cow, and then put the young bulls together. Okay.
By now, the eland have been standing in the truck for nearly 30 minutes, and they are becoming more and more stressed. As the animals are being transferred, the crew becomes aware that some of the protective hoses have fallen off, leaving the sharp horns exposed. Eland have narrow hooves. In this foreign environment, simply crossing the threshold between trucks can be a traumatic experience.
The animals are hesitant. Almost every single one stumbles as it comes out, but it's not a big danger. They just trip a little.
Just as all the animals appear to have been safely moved, it becomes clear that there is a new problem.
There's 2 animals that have got injuries on them from horns sticking in, and I think that we must put both those animals in the truck and then suture up those injuries.
The general rule is if it's a man-made problem, we intervene. If it's a natural problem, we don't. But this is a wound that was caused by us. It was caused because the animal was crowded on a truck where we had placed it.
Brian, is there any way we could get a hose running from that faucet over to the truck to clean off the wounds?
Corbus and his team must consider their next step carefully. A male has been injured in his groin and will need surgery if his wounds are to heal properly. Because of the strength and power of the animal, standard practice would be to completely anesthetize him. However, all the eland have already been tranquilized.
The options at this point was to work with him with a light anesthesia, but the risk could be that he will wake up. And the other option was to give him more drug and take the risk that probably he could die with an overdose.
Are you bringing the Moody box actually in with you?
No. On top, we can just put that iodine, that's all I've got.
Do you want me to stay on top and just throw you things?
That sounds good, eh? You'd like
Rather than me having to stand on your shoulder to get out?
Okay, we'll do it that way. All right.
The vets are now faced with the prospect of performing surgery on a wild animal trapped in a confined space. Recognizing the risk to their own safety, they decide to give the eland just a small dose of anesthetic. Although potentially dangerous to humans, the narcotic M99 is the anesthetic of choice in this situation.
Okay, careful now, I'm working with M99. Okay, some CB tank in there.
Once I saw from the top of the truck the situations in which we were going to be working, I started to get quite concerned. There was only a small hole at the top to get out. If something gets wrong in this situation, we can have serious problems.
It looks really scary.
And it can get crowded if he's awake.
Yeah.
The roof is probably 9 feet off the floor. Cobus and I discussed this, and I really didn't want to go in there for my own safety and for the safety of the other people.
He's tranquilized. It's not exciting.
In this confined space, any problem with this male could be catastrophic. This animal weighs more than 10 times as much as any of the vets, and the only way out is straight up, through a hole nearly 3 meters above the floor. Before the rest of the team has joined Cobus, he will attempt to blindfold the animal to keep it calm. The eland is only partially anesthetized at this point.
Careful, please, careful.
It's okay, it's okay. It's okay.
It's becoming clear that this situation is not a normal one. Cobus, who is the most even-tempered person in the world, who never gets excited, is starting to even sound nervous and sound like this is a problem.
Be ready to pull me out.
After just a few minutes, it is clear that the ladder will be of little use in an emergency. Only sheer strength will provide escape.
No, moenie paniek nie. Asseblief, kind.
After watching Cobus try to come out of there once and the ladder being destroyed, I know that there's no way I could go in there safely.
Safe out.
Right.
Sorry.
Use another one.
Sorry.
Come with that M99, please.
The problem is the animal. It's not as unconscious as it needs to be. And no matter who's in there, they're going to be in danger.
Give us another 3 milligrams.
The eland is given another injection to allow for surgery.
So you can't go down.
Here, Cobus, this is only about 2, and I need another bottle, so.
Cobus is well aware that his safety will be in question if the eland is not given an additional dose of narcotic. On the other hand, an overdose could mean death to this animal.
He's a reservoir.
There's 2 in there.
Okay, let's just leave him.
Finally, the eland seems calm, so the decision is made to continue.
I approached Cobus and I asked him, okay, do you need a hand? Can I go with you? And well, he said, yeah, of course, you come with me.
Paul,
Yes.
kom hou met die kop. Dat hy nie kom optel die hele tyd.
Jorge could never have imagined himself performing such a delicate operation under such extreme conditions.
My main concern once I get into the place with the animal was I realized that he was not in a very deep anesthesia, and at any moment he could start moving and fighting to try to get up.
Can you pass me the rest of the suture, Ellen?
Yep.
Even though it's an antelope, which means he's not a predator, he's still a very dangerous animal. He has very sharp horns, and he can kick, and he simply weighs, several thousand pounds.
Okay, if we have to leave this cage in a hurry, right? It's Jorge first, okay? And then Paul, and then me, okay?
Cobus is definitely thinking first of the animal's safety, and then secondary, his own safety. This is a hot day, and the sun is shining right on this metal container. It's got to be 100 degrees or more inside there.
After nearly 30 minutes, the wound is almost closed.
Maar al wat jy moet doen is op sy nek sit, né?
I'm up top getting drugs ready, handing them down whatever they need, and I hear all hell break loose.
How much do you want?
3 milligrams.
I was very concerned about Cobus. Knowing Cobus is quite a calm person, it was the first time I saw him a little bit worried. I was really scared. I was completely scared at that point.
Okay, let's leave him and move over there.
Despite its abrupt end, the surgery has been a success.
There's the spot is with this. And I'm going to ask Chris. There we go.
Much to the vet's relief, the wound was sutured sufficiently to allow the animal to heal.
I never jumped so high in my life. There was not the steps on there, and I just I don't know how I got it to the top. I just took it out, but I don't know. That was quite a fright. We sutured everything, and for sure we left a small hole it needs to be draining, especially because this animal is going to be released probably tomorrow. That's game cap. You have to adaptate to the things that you have on the field, and then think about how it's going to do the animal once he's released, because we're not going to catch him again to put more antibiotics or to remove the suture. So we have to think in all the things before working, and hopefully he will be okay for tomorrow. He's up right now, but I'm sure he will be okay for tomorrow.
Cobus always says, just when you think you've mastered it, that's when things happen and they keep you humble, because things can always go wrong.
That's what you get if you're stupid. You don't think. But we'll think with the next one, and we'll do it right.
At some points it looks very traumatic and it can compromise the life of an animal. For me, I know that I'm doing my best. I know that I'm doing the best for this animal, and if he make it, he's going to do also the best thing for the benefit of the species.
Coming up on the Great African Wildlife Rescue.
It's so easy to get very emotional with these animals.
Yeah, it's a heart beating.
Maybe we can keep the elephants at a stable level. We're moving these zebras because they don't belong here, and this type of habitat is a problem for them.
Sometimes I really wish I could say to animals, listen, we're not going to hurt you.